You wouldn't even make it out of your spacecraft. Before you could take a single step, the pressure alone would crush you like you were 1,000 feet underwater. The heat would melt the lead solder right out of your equipment, and the clouds above you would be raining sulfuric acid. Welcome to Venus, the planet that looks like Earth's twin from space, and turns out to be one of the most hostile places in the entire solar system. Let's walk through exactly what would happen to you there, second by second. The very first thing that would happen the moment you stepped onto Venus has nothing to do with heat at all. It's pressure. Venus's atmosphere is so thick and dense that surface pressure is about 92 times greater than Earth's at sea level. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the same pressure you'd experience nearly 3,000 feet underwater in Earth's oceans, deep enough that without serious protection, the crushing force alone would be enough to collapse your chest and stop your lungs from functioning, even before temperature became a factor. But temperature is coming for you too, and it's coming fast. Venus's surface temperature sits at a near constant 900 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead, zinc, and tin. And here's the part that surprises people. Venus is actually hotter than Mercury, despite being almost twice as far from the Sun. The reason is its atmosphere. Venus's air is roughly 96% carbon dioxide, creating the most extreme runaway greenhouse effect of any planet in the solar system. Heat that arrives from the Sun gets trapped under that thick blanket of CO2 and never escapes, building up over billions of years into a surface hot enough to glow faintly in infrared day or night, at the equator or the poles. It barely matters where you are. Venus is uniformly brutal everywhere. If the crushing pressure didn't get you, this heat would cook you within seconds of exposure. But somehow, the worst part of Venus isn't even down here on the surface. High above Venus's surface, somewhere between 28 and 35 miles up, sits a thick permanent layer of clouds, and those clouds are made almost entirely of sulfuric acid droplets, constantly drifting and occasionally falling as rain. That acid rain never actually reaches the ground. The surface temperature is so extreme that any acid droplets falling from the clouds evaporate completely before they ever land, turning back into vapor and rising back up to reform the clouds all over again. An endless, planet-wide cycle of acid rain that never finishes falling. So while you wouldn't get rained on directly at the surface, getting anywhere near that cloud layer in a vehicle or aircraft would mean flying straight through a corrosive, acidic haze capable of eating through unprotected materials over time. And just when you think you understand Venus's weather, here's something that should genuinely unsettle you. Venus's surface barely has any wind at all. Light breezes, nothing dramatic. But up in that thick cloud layer, something bizarre is happening. Winds reach speeds of up to 250 miles per hour, fast enough to circle the entire planet in about 4 to 5 Earth days. That means Venus's clouds are racing around the planet roughly 60 times faster than the planet itself actually rotates underneath them, a phenomenon scientists call superrotation. And to this day, nobody fully understands the exact mechanism driving it. Venus, in other words, has a surface that barely moves and an atmosphere that's almost permanently hurricane force, completely disconnected from the ground below it. Two different planets stacked on top of each other. Just like Mercury, Venus messes with your sense of time, but in an even stranger way. Venus rotates so slowly and in the opposite direction from most planets that a single day on Venus, sunrise to sunrise, takes about 117 Earth days. But Venus orbits the Sun in only 225 Earth days. That means a day on Venus is shorter than its year, but only by less than 2 days difference. And because Venus spins backward compared to almost every other planet, if you somehow could see the Sun through that thick cloud cover, it would appear to rise in the west and set in the east, the exact opposite of what you'd expect anywhere else. Of course, you'd never actually see a sunrise from the surface at all. The clouds are so thick and permanent that direct sunlight never reaches the ground in any recognizable form, just a dim, hazy orange-tinted glow, all day, every day, for months at a time. Here's something that makes Venus's hostility very real and not just theoretical. The Soviet Union actually landed multiple spacecraft on Venus's surface during their Venera missions in the 1970s and 80s. Several of those landers survived just long enough to transmit a handful of images back to Earth before being destroyed, usually within somewhere between 23 minutes and just over 2 hours, crushed, cooked, or both, by the very conditions we've just walked through. To this day, Venus remains one of the most difficult places in the solar system to explore directly, precisely because almost nothing built by humans can survive there for long. So when we say a human couldn't survive on Venus, we're not exaggerating for effect. Even our toughest engineered machines barely could. So here's Venus in full. Pressure that would crush you like the deep ocean, heat hot enough to melt metal, clouds made of acid that never finish raining, winds racing around the planet 60 times faster than the ground beneath them turns, and a day that's nearly the same length as its entire year. It's often called Earth's evil twin, and after walking through all of that, it's not hard to see why. But Venus, brutal as it is, still has solid ground beneath your feet. Up next, we're heading somewhere you couldn't even stand, a planet with no surface at all, just an endless drop into crushing depths. Stick around for that one.